the debt we carry forward. What knowing this obligates us to do as children, as parents, as people who were formed by someone. Everything your parents gave you through their presence, their patience, their ordinary moments, who did they get it from? And who are you giving it to? There came a point in my adult life I was in the middle of a research project, surrounded by books and theories about pedagogy and communication, when I stopped and had a thought that felt almost embarrassing in its simplicity. Everything I was reading, my parents had already practiced, without the vocabulary, without the citations, without ever once announcing that they were doing something deliberate. They had given me through years of ordinary presence the very things the literature said were most important: psychological safety, the modeling of values in action, the tolerance of ambiguity, the patience to let a lesson arrive in its own time. They had given me the capacity to think, not just the information to think with. And then I asked myself, where did they learn it? From their parents? Who learned it from theirs? A chain of ordinary human transmission, stretching back further than any library I had ever sat in. Each link formed by presence, each link at risk of being the last. Because chains break when people stop passing things on, and they stop passing things on when they stop believing that what they carry is worth the cost of presence. Hannah Arendt distinguishes between three fundamental human activities: labor, work, and action. Labor means maintaining biological life. Work refers to building a durable world, and action is the beginning of something new in the world through speech and deed. For Arendt, it is action, the capacity to begin, to transmit, to initiate a new generation into the human story that is most distinctly human. Each new generation, she wrote, arrives as a natality, a new beginning with the potential to renew the world. But this potential is not automatic. It must be activated through education, understood not as information transfer, but as the deliberate, loving introduction of a child into a world that was already there before them. When that introduction is abandoned to algorithms and screens, something essential about what it means to be human is put at risk. What the research confirmed and what it asked. As a researcher, I could find the evidence quickly. A 2023 study in the Journal of Family Communication showed that adolescents who reported regular meaningful conversation with their parents scored significantly higher on measures of emotional resilience, value clarity, and capacity for empathy independent of socioeconomic background. The mechanism was not the content of the conversations, it was the experience of being fully heard consistently by someone who knew them and said. A 2024 meta-analysis in developmental psychology reviewed 43 studies and concludes that no digital intervention app, video, or platform had yet produced the long-term character formation outcomes associated with sustained parental presence and or transmission of values. The researchers note this not as a critique of technology, but as a description of a gap that technology has not closed and shows no sign of closing. This confirmed what I already knew from my own childhood, but confirmation is not enough. No one creates an obligation. If I know that what my parents gave me is irreplaceable and that it requires my presence to pass on, then every hour I am with the people I care for, I'm neither transmitting or I am not. I'm not arguing for nostalgia. I'm not arguing that the past was perfect or that technology is the enemy. What I'm arguing is something simpler and more personal. What my parents gave me required their presence, and I cannot pass it on without mine. That is the depth not a debt of guilt, a debt of continuation. Every chain of wisdom transmission depends on people who choose consciously and repeatedly to be fully there, to put the phone down, to sit with the question instead of outsourcing it to a research engine, to offer the sentence that says for decades rather than the link that fades in an hour. My parent was my first library, not because they had more information than a search engine, they did not, but because they carried something a search engine cannot carry. A life lived according to values offered to me through the daily practice of their presence. That is the library I was given. That is the library I intend to become. According to W.B. Yeats, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. The first library had no shelves. It had a voice, a silence, and a presence.